morning, everyone, and welcome to Princeton Public Library. My name is Janie Herman, and I am the manager of adult programming here at the library. And I'm going to be also acting as moderator for today's event. It's a book brunch and the launch of the anthology, of the launch weekend of the Anthology New Jersey Fan Club. Artists and writers celebrate the Garden State. I want to thank you all for joining us, both in person and online, because we're actually streaming this to YouTube as well. Today's hybrid event will run for about an hour and will include comments from Carrie Sullivan, the editor, as well as several contributors to the anthology. Just a few housekeeping notes I'd like to quickly mention. This room is T-coiled enabled, so if you have a T-coil hearing device, please you're welcome to switch them on at this time. If you don't have a T-coiled device, just let Stephen or I know, and we'll be happy to get you one of our headsets. Please note that masks are optional in the library at this time, and we encourage you to do whatever feels comfortable for you. This event is being recorded. Recordings are typically uploaded onto the library's YouTube channel within a few days. And at the back of the room, we have our partner, Labyrinth Books, who's co-sponsoring the event, and you'll be able to purchase and get books signed if you are here with us in person. Unfortunately, for those of us tuning in from online, you'll have to find another way to acquire your book. Although you can call Labyrinth and have the book shipped to you or order it online from Labyrinth, which I highly recommend that you do, and support a local bookseller. Before I bring each of the speakers to the podium, just a few words about this really unique book that has been on my bedside table now for the last few weeks, as I have found it to be the perfect book to dip into a little bit before turning in for the night. Each of the essays are just the perfect length for a bit of reading whenever you have a few minutes. You can read several in one longer sitting or just dip in and out whenever you want to discover something new about our state. Like the fact that ice cream cones were invented here, which is something I did not know, the actual cone itself, yes. Or you can read about places that are familiar to all of us, Hoboken, the Shore, Trenton, and so on, as well as read about the New Jersey Devils, the hockey team, Bagels, the boardwalk, and how so many of the writers find that no matter how far they roam, they will always find their way back to New Jersey as the place they call home. As the book blurb so aptly notes, despite the many jokes and stereotypes about New Jersey and its residents, in reality, the state is a wildly diverse place, home to a vast variety of landscapes, cultures, and people. There is no singular New Jersey experience, and the stories that its residents have to share about the state will surprise you. And as someone who was a transplanted New Jerseyan from Canada, who's been living here for many years, I now consider New Jersey, as well as Canada, to be my home. Published by the Rutgers University Press, this book is an eclectic anthology, and it features personal essays, interviews, comics from a broad group of established and emerging writers and artists who have something to say about New Jersey. It offers a multifaceted look at the state's history, significance, and is told through both narrative nonfiction, photographs, and illustrations. It really is a delight. So first to come to the podium will be the editor, Carrie Sullivan, who is also the founder of the very popular Instagram account, Jersey Collective. If you're on Instagram, that's just @Jersey Collective. It features weekly takeovers by different New Jerseyans. Carrie's writing has appeared in McSweeney's Internet Tendency, Catapult, Podcast Reviews, and elsewhere. She is from Monmouth County, but now lives in Essex County. So welcome to the podium, Carrie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Does that sound okay? You were right. This podium is strange. Okay. So I'm just going to read the first part of my introduction for you this morning. I would have no trouble writing an entire book about New Jersey. I would tell you that I've lived in 5 counties and was born in a 6th. I've lived half a mile from a military fort. I've lived 4 blocks from the ocean. I've lived in flight paths and along train lines. I've lived adjacent to the Great Swamp. I've lived on a street where, if I walked to the top of its hill, I could see a sliver of the New York City skyline. I've lived on land that was once beside a horse farm. At various points in my life, I've laid in bed and listened to crickets, trains, foxes, church bells, seagulls, and bugles playing taps. All of this in the same state, no place farther than an hour from the next. I would calculate somehow the number of hours I've driven on my state's highways and tell you which stretches of the parkway feel like home. I'd share realizations I've had while stuck in traffic on 287. I'd tell you that the first time I ever drove a car, my driving instructor directed me to Route 18 around traffic circles, over the newly built Route 35 bridge in Belmar, along the ocean, and to a Wawa where she bought soup that she ate in the car as I drove. I would tell you about the diners where I formed bonds with friends over plates of cheese fries, where I drank milkshakes at arguably inappropriate hours. How it always felt normal to me to be able to procure excellent takeout from almost every cuisine on earth without having to drive very far. How I didn't realize there was anything special about the pizza or bagels I grew up eating until I traveled to beautiful places where I was served terrible pizza by people who looked at me funny when I tried to order a plain pie. I would tell you that my great-grandmother packed cookies for Nabisco, and my grandmother worked in Jersey City for the Erie Railroad, and my mother went to college across the country where no one who asked her what kind of music she liked had ever heard of Bruce Springsteen yet. I would tell you I remember a history unit in elementary school focused on our state, culminating with a trip to the State House in Trenton, where I was captivated by a carpet depicting some of our state symbols: violets, goldfinches, oak leaves. Back at school, I remember a party where our parents were somehow roped into baking cakes shaped vaguely like each county, which were frosted with different colors and assembled together on tables in our gymnasium, a red icing star drawn over our town. I would show you the photographs from when I worked as a historical interpreter at Allaire Village and at Longstreet Farm, where I dressed in historically accurate clothing and felt a connection to the past. I would tell you how I interned in the city and commuted 4 hours a day on a combination of New Jersey Transit trains, buses, and subways. How I got to know the rhythm of that train so well that I knew when it would come to a quiet hum as it drifted across bridges, knew when the lights were about to go out. How at first I was bewildered by all of the frantic New Jerseyans dressed in business casual attire who ran through Penn Station, but by the end of my internship, I realized I'd become one of them. I would analyze the perceptions other people have of my home state that have always confounded me. As a teenager, I pored over issues of Weird New Jersey, wondering if other places also had entire magazines dedicated to their strangeness. In college, across the river in Philadelphia, I met people from all over the country and the world who had one of two reactions when I told them where I was from. I wouldn't have guessed that, or that makes sense. I was never sure if I reflected or subverted my home state, and I was less sure what it was about me that either gave me away or incited doubt. Whenever anyone said, "I'm sorry," or "ew," when I said where I was from, I sat with their assertion not only that New Jersey was an oil tank-ridden, smelly, overcrowded shithole, but also, naturally, that I was supposed to agree with them. If I was writing a book about New Jersey, I would tell you that Sandy Hook is the place I most want to go after something bad happens to me. There's something restorative about not only the salt air, but also the place itself. It feels wild, ever-changing. It's damaged but resilient. It's weathered wars and hurricanes and the threat of development, and it's still there. I would tell you I once knew a relationship was over as we spent the day in Princeton, the state's top-rated sorbet tasteless on my tongue. That my family's car was once stolen from the Willowbrook Mall parking lot while we were at the movies. That as a teenager, I didn't go to the mall as often as I did downtown Red Bank, and that almost every place I frequented has now been turned into something else. That when I walk around Bradley Beach and Ocean Grove, I gawk at the houses, wondering if I could ever afford even the shittiest one. I would tell you what New Jersey has given me, and I would tell you what it has taken. I would tell you what New Jersey made me, and I would tell you why it matters. I'm going to stop there, though my introduction does go on for like another 2 pages, but I tend to not read it at events because it's not as, the first part's more like an essay, and the second part I kind of just talk more about the process of putting the book together, which I'm sure we'll get to today, so I'm just going to cut it off there. Thank you.
Okay, so I think you can tell just from that introduction how much there is to discover about New Jersey, and so much of that is in this book. And I'm sure every person that you will talk to, even in this room, has a different concept of New Jersey, what it means to them, and what is so weird about the state of New Jersey, that we have a whole magazine called Weird New Jersey. So next up to come to the microphone is Brittany Coppola. She is a writer from New Jersey, but she now lives in Chicago. She holds an MFA in creative writing from Sarah Lawrence College and has been published in Adroit, Carve Magazine, Barron Magazine, and more. Her work is inspired by food, memory, and the people and places she calls home. Welcome, Brittany.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Although I'm born and raised in New Jersey, I live in Chicago now and just happened to be back in the Garden State this weekend. So it's really special just to be here and celebrating this really, really beautiful book. I don't have much of a preface other than my essay in here, Exit Zero, is exploring what it means to me to be a Jersey girl, for better or for worse. I think it means something different based on, in some ways it's really homogenous to be a Jersey girl and there's a lot of unity in that experience. In other ways, I think it varies a lot based on time and place and identity and different generations and iterations of Jersey girls. So this is kind of my meditation on my iteration of it growing up here. So this is the beginning of my essay, Exit Zero. Many people believe the Jersey Shore is a chalked off patch of beach that has welcome to and safe travel signs at its entrance and exit. The true Jersey Shore, though, is a chained colony of beach towns that knot like seaweed around your ankles, spanning along 140 miles of the state's coastline. Regardless of where you go, Asbury Park, Point Pleasant, Ocean City, Atlantic City, Cape May, the exit to your destination will rib off the Garden State Parkway, which braces the state like a spine. In August 2009, my parents closed on a home in Wildwood, New Jersey. I was 13 years old and spent much of that summer learning how to conceal a tampon string within my bikini bottoms, while an hour and a half away, an agita of Italian-American 20-somethings drank, self-tanned, and smushed their way through Seaside Heights. It was the last summer when the name Snooki might have been confused for the name of a candy bar. Getting to Wildwood simply required following the parkway so far down until the highway itself becomes the exit, funneling from 4 lanes to 3 to 2 before landing at the stoplight that marks the arrival of Exit Zero. I've never not known Exit Zero as a legitimate, desirable destination, but I imagine an outsider who has been provided these directions and their likeliness to question, where will I arrive when there is nowhere left to go? In 2009, 8 strangers took exit 82 off the Garden State Parkway to Seaside Heights. The only personalities who were actually from New Jersey were Sammy Sweetheart and Dina, a season 3 addition. The rest were primarily from New York, with the exception of the Rhode Island native DJ Pauly D. Jersey Shore's primary plot documented the blotted reality of these vacationers living in a world unbound from time, sobriety, responsibility, self-respect, and abstinence. The episodes captured an endless loop of gym montages, swampy dance floors, bar fights, breakups, and black and white gyrating bed comforters filmed by remote-controlled cameras. Within the first 4 episodes, JWoww cheats on her boyfriend with Pauly D. A love triangle erupts between Sammy Sweetheart, Ron, and The Situation. Angelina voluntarily leaves the show after she abandons her shift at the Shore Store t-shirt shop, and Snooki is socked in the face by a man at the bar. I was in 7th grade when Jersey Shore premiered. I didn't necessarily watch it religiously as it aired, but made a point to be up to date. The series premiered in December 2009, the same month I got my first period in algebra class. Season 2 kicked off a month after I had my first kiss in an empty movie theater during a date I was driven to by my mom. In season 3, while Ron was hauling Sammy's bed frame to the porch and defacing her belongings during yet another breakup, I had my heart broken by a boy I thought I loved. It's a tragic cliche that I lost my virginity the summer after the season finale, but the truth nonetheless. In August 2015, I moved to North Carolina for college. I was 18 years old and Jersey Shore's series finale had aired nearly 2 years earlier. Many people I met in North Carolina told me they knew I was from New Jersey the moment they met me. Many people seem to have that experience here. The unkind ones proclaimed it within minutes of our introduction, laughing at their detection of my home as if it were a punchline to a joke I didn't know I made. The more sensitive ones, though, would qualify their assumptions. But it's not because you're like anything like the people from the show, they would say. This happened with people who had never visited New Jersey or even the United States when I lived in England for a semester, and it happens now that I live in Chicago. Every time my reflex is to defend myself, to distance myself as much as possible from JWoww, Sammy, Dina, and Snooki. These women, and the many unnamed women who passed through the show's subplots, collectively formed an amalgamation of what it means to be a Jersey girl. To all the people I met in North Carolina and England and am meeting now in Chicago, I'm a woman who will always exist in relation to these ballooned, dimensionless characters. Ones who woke up each morning with stale breath and missing underwear, who dated and dated and dated horrible men, who were steadfast sites of violence and stupidity. But as much as Jersey Shore shaped the country's, the world's perception of stereotypical women from New Jersey, it also shaped a world that expects this kind of woman from me. I watch Jersey Shore every time I leave home again. I watched it in college with my best friend, one whose contact in my phone today is still Meatball, the nickname that Snooki and Dina coined for each other in season 3. I watched it when I studied abroad in Bath, then watched Geordie Shore, the infinitely more disorienting British remake of the original. I watched it this summer. I exchanged New Jersey for Chicago. Every time I restart the show, I think this will be the time I finally hate it. Because I want to. I want nothing more than to hate a show about a version of New Jersey that does not exist and faux natives who relapse into my home state every time the summer returns. But the more capable I am of recognizing how predisposed the show's characters were, specifically the women, to violence, abuse, reduction, and artificiality, the more assured I am that I will return to it again. And I'm gonna pause there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brittany, and I'm so glad that you just happened to be back visiting us here in New Jersey this weekend so you could join us for that reading of that wonderful essay, and we'll have some questions for you later as well. Okay, so next up, because we're going here in alphabetical order, we're gonna have Lorraine Goodman come up. Lorraine holds a BA from Princeton and a master's from NYU Stern. She has performed on Broadway and runs the Trenton-based nonprofit Latin American Legal Defense and Education Fund, or LALDEF, as we more commonly know it, right?
Used to.
Used to, we don't call it LALDEF.
No, I'm no longer there.
Oh, you're no longer there. Oh, somewhere we got a out-of-date bio. But anyways, she spends her weekends developing her cruciverbalist skills. And she's gonna come up here and tell us about her contribution to the book, which is very unique, because it's not an essay, but something entirely different.
Hello, everyone. So if you turn to the back of the book, you will see there is a New Jersey trivia test or a crossword puzzle. It's actually what crossword puzzle enthusiasts will call a vocab puzzle, as opposed to the kind that you see in New York Times. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I became a cruciverbalist. So cruciverbalism is the art of making crossword puzzles. And as you might guess, I'm going to take my glasses off to read. As you might guess, the majority of people who do puzzles actually is pretty equally distributed between men and women. But the number of people who make crossword puzzles, especially those that are printed in major publications, are like 80 to 90% white men. Of course, right? So a couple of years ago, a very well-respected cruciverbalist named Eric Arsgaard decided to start an initiative to encourage more non-white men, people who are not white men, to learn how to make crossword puzzles. And he set up a collaborative on Facebook to help encourage mentorships and help women find mentors who have been published and become crossword puzzle creators or cruciverbalists. I found out about this through a blog on crossword puzzle solvers, and I decided this was at the height of the pandemic, maybe I can do that. And I was set up with a mentor, and he said, okay, get this book, and let's come up with a theme and get this software. So you have to buy, there's a couple of different software. Now you can buy software that helps you create the puzzle before people would do it, in a grid. So in any case, I started making crossword puzzles with this guy, and we came up with a theme, and we suggested the theme to Newsday, one of the crossword puzzle editors that my collaborator knew. And the guy said, yes, sure, I like that theme. So then we had to create the puzzle. It was a 21 by 21, a Sunday puzzle, which is much harder to do than the 15 by 15. Let me ask a question before I start, actually. How many people here do crossword puzzles on any regular basis? Great. So if you know crossword puzzles, most of the crossword puzzles in big papers, like the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, they're fairly easy on Monday. And then they get harder and harder during the week. The Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and Sunday always have a theme to them. Friday and Saturday get very tricky, and they're themeless, which makes them even harder. Sunday is about the equivalent of a Wednesday puzzle, but it's usually bigger. It's 21 by 21. So my first puzzle was a Sunday puzzle in Newsday. And so that was very exciting, and my sister had it framed for me. And then I started making puzzles by myself, and I did one for a magazine called Spyscape, which was also a themed puzzle. And then a friend of mine, who is in a playwriting group that I'm in, she's an author, she got a note on her listserv saying that Carrie, somebody she knew or was posted on this listserv, was looking for a cruciverbalist or someone who could create a puzzle on New Jersey who lived in New Jersey. And my friend said, you do that, right? So I said, okay, sure. And so I contacted Carrie, and Carrie was like, I didn't think that would work. So anyway, the two of us started brainstorming about what we wanted to be in the puzzle. So when you create a puzzle, the first thing you need to come up with are your entries, right? And we came up with a list, a rather extensive list. I can't remember how many.
Yeah, I don't remember.
How many?
I don't remember.
Yeah, but there are, let's see. So we have 36 down and 33 across. So about 100 entries. No, 69 entries. Of facts and things about New Jersey. And then for this kind of puzzle, it's actually, once you kind of come up with all that, it's fairly easy to come up with the grid because you don't have to have everything crossed with something else. So you plug it into the software, and it comes up with different formations, and you can kind of play with those a little bit. So once we had the grid, then we had to come up with the clues. And that's actually the most fun, because we want things that were tricky, but entertaining and also informative. So do you have a favorite clue? I don't know, people, for those of you who have the book, you can see it's back on page 278 is the grid. So there are clues like Jersey City purchased for half a barrel of beer, 12 kettles, 6 guns, and more. Anybody have an idea of what that might be? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 across is 7 letters. I can tell you that the third letter is a B.
Hoboken.
Hoboken, yes.
She's an insider.
Right? Did anybody know that? So all the fun was kind of figuring out what would these questions be? What would the clues be? Here's 11 across. Dubious distinction, blank of the world. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 letters. Dubious distinction, blank of the world, New Jersey. It begins with a C. It begins with a D. And one of the letters is a C. It's 2 words. Yep. And I'll give you a clue. Someplace you go out to eat.
Diner.
Diner capital of the world. So anyway, it's a lot of fun. It's basically like a trivia contest, but in writing. So I hope you enjoy that. I've had a couple of other puzzles published. Most recently, I collaborated with another Princetonian that was totally by chance. It was in the Wall Street Journal about 2 weeks ago. Almost 3 weeks ago. It was on May 31st. And it was called Men of the Cloth. So if you look in the Wall Street Journal and you Google that, you should be able, and I like doing crossword puzzles, it's a Tuesday, so it's not too difficult. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Well, I can report that Princeton is a place that loves crossword puzzles. One of our most popular things that people come into the library to pick up every day. We print out crossword puzzles, and we've actually had requests. We were in the process of planning it before the pandemic of doing a crossword puzzle tournament. So maybe Lorraine, I will be contacting you to be our moderator. Yeah, we did. We also love jigsaw puzzles. We did a jigsaw puzzle tournament just before the pandemic, and that was so popular. We're going to bring that back, but also so this winter we might be having some puzzle tournaments because Princetonians like to use their brains for puzzling. So speaking of Princetonians, or people who work at Princeton, our final panelist to come up tonight, oh my goodness. I'm so used to doing events at night that I'm not used to being here on a Sunday morning. And happy Father's Day to all the men in the room too, I should have mentioned that. So tonight we'll have Pooja Makhijani, I practiced it, now I got it wrong. Pooja Makhijani, who is the editor of Under Her Skin, How Girls Experience Race in America, and the author of Mama Series. Her bylines have appeared in the New York Times, the Washington Post, NPR, The Atlantic, The Cut, Bon Appetit, Severe, BuzzFeed, and more. She had a notable essay in the Best American Food Writing 2019. So welcome.
Can you hear me? The title of my essay is called On Immigration and Sandwiches. Tasty Sub Shop on Plainfield Avenue in Edison, New Jersey is an unattractive Italian deli with blue clapboard siding, fluorescent lighting, and limited seating. Here, patrons order by number. The number 7 is turkey breast, a choice of honey roasted, almond roasted, or smoked turkey. The number 14 is all cheese, provolone, Swiss, and white American. The number 5, the only sandwich that has a name, the Super Sub, combines pressed ham, boiled ham, salami, and a choice of provolone, Swiss, or white American cheese. The shop accepts credit cards, but diners receive 5% off their orders if they pay by cash. Tasty's unassuming appearance belies its iconic status in the region. Tasty was founded in 1963 by George Thornton and David Caldwell and has changed hands only twice. In 1972 to David Thornton, George's son, and Carl Padovano, and in 2019 to Brian Thornton, David's son, and Stephen Moraldi, who has worked in the shop since he was in high school. Although Tasty now has 2 other outlets in central New Jersey, in Franklin Park and in Lawrenceville, the Edison location is most well known. In July 2010, then President Obama met with small business owners, including David Thornton and Padovano, at Tasty's Edison's shop and ordered a 6-inch number 5, super sub with everything, lettuce, tomatoes, onions, oil, vinegar, salt, and oregano, to go. At nearly 49 years old, Obama declared he could no longer eat the 12-inch variety. I had grown up in Edison and was visiting my parents that day. Our ranch house, which looked exactly like every other house on the street, down to the single tree in the same place in every yard, was my parents' first home in the United States. They had immigrated from India in the mid-1970s, lived in New York, and chose Edison to live their American dream because the township was affordable and offered easy access to New York City via New Jersey Transit. And like many of my neighbors, my father and I walked to Tasty to catch a glimpse of President Obama. We saw road blockades, U.S. Secret Service snipers, news vans, and both protesters, many waving the Gadsden flag, a favorite among Tea Party enthusiasts, an anti-Obama movement that gained prominence in government in November, and supporters who were far more racially, culturally, and ethnically diverse by my observations. The president signed a paper bag upon his departure. The bag now sits under glass in front of the shop's meat and cheese slicer. The sub sandwich's origin story is murky and contested, but it's likely that what Americans know as subs or by any of their regional names are a version of Italian sandwiches that came to New York through immigration at the turn of the 20th century. Italian Americans have always been New Jersey's largest single ethnic group. Upon their arrival in the late 1800s, they settled in urban centers like Jersey City and Newark and Patterson and Trenton, and agricultural towns like Hamilton and Vineland. Howard Roby, professor emeritus at the College of New Jersey in Trenton, who wrote The Sociocultural Context of an Italian-American Dietary Item as a sociology graduate student at Temple University, posits that Southern Italian immigrants, nearly all of whom worked as laborers, from seamstresses to seasonal farm workers, folded Italian meats, cheeses, and seasonings into bread, creating a meal with familiar flavors that could be transported and eaten on the job. The sandwich grew in popularity with other ethnic groups, especially in the 1930s and 40s. Outside New Jersey, Edison is best known for its most notable denizen, the scientist who invented the light bulb here in 1876 in his Menlo Park lab, not for its sub-shops. The township was, at the time, known as Raritan, but eventually took the inventor's name. It was a quaint rural town until the mid-20th century, when corporations such as Ford and Revlon, both within bike riding distance of my childhood home, opened assembly plants. Workers flocked to jobs in central New Jersey. They were mostly ethnic whites, Italians, Irish, Poles. Edison's demographics dramatically changed from the 1970s to the 1990s. A wave of Asian immigrants arrived in New Jersey as a result of the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, which ended immigration admissions policies based on race and ethnicity. Prior to this, restrictive immigration laws were designed to maintain a white majority in the United States and explicitly banned Asians. My father secured his visa to the United States after the passage of the 1965 law. My mother followed. A second surge followed after the passage of the Immigrant Control and Reform Act in 1986, which removed country quotas and educational and professional requirements for immigrants, allowing them to immigrate via lottery or family sponsorship. According to 2019 U.S. Census data, 48% of Edison's population is now Asian. Only 36.8% is white. Some New Jerseyans consider I-95, which runs west to east from Trenton to Belmar, the unofficial dividing line between North and South New Jersey. In North Jersey, an Italian sandwich is called a sub or a hero if in closer proximity to New York City. In South Jersey, with its Philadelphian influence, the same torpedo-shaped sandwich is called a hoagie. I've heard both sub and hoagie in Central New Jersey, which by my definition lies on the I-95 corridor, bisecting the state northeast to southwest and connecting New York City to Philadelphia. New Jerseyans quibble whether Central New Jersey is a distinctive region of the state. In a December 2019 tweet, Governor Phil Murphy was compelled to write, "As governor of the great state of New Jersey, I hereby declare that, all caps, Central Jersey does exist." and he defined which counties constituted the region. Dan Nosowitz, in a widely shared essay in Atlas Obscura, declared, "In reality, there isn't anything especially different about central New Jersey," and disregarded its existence entirely. In 2015, New Jersey Advanced Media mapped New Jersey's demographics using 2010 census data. What emerged was a pointillist painting of the state's diversity. The I-95 corridor shimmers orange, purple, and green, signifying Black, Hispanic, or Latino, and Asian, in stark contrast to the map's wide swaths of blue marking white in the Northwest and the Southeast. Though white New Jerseyans don't or can't recognize central New Jersey's distinctive culture, and that they continue to argue about it on talk radio and on internet forums is not surprising. Racism often makes the most obvious invisible. I'm going to stop there. The essay goes on, it's quite long, and it sort of pulls on a number of these threads about immigration and central New Jersey.
So I want to thank each of our speakers for their comments and ask them, oh, these microphones are a bit loud. Hang on a minute, I need to adjust that. Okay, that's better. Okay, sorry about that. Sometimes between the podium mic and these mics, turn the mics on. So what we're going to do now is some individual questions, and then we'll open it up to the floor. And so I've prepared as the moderator a question for each of you, and then a question for the panel, and then we'll have our lightning round. So Carrie, when and how did you come up about the idea for this anthology and to edit it, or were you approached for it? How did New Jersey Fan Club come about?
I don't know. Oh, the green light means on. The red light means it's off. So I run an Instagram account, was mentioned earlier, called Jersey Collective, which allows different people to take over every week. So we get to see New Jersey from the perspective of a lot of different people, and it's a new person every week. It's always changing. I'm also a public librarian by day and a writer, so I love books, obviously. And I really love anthologies. I read a lot of them, and I really like when you were introducing it and you talked about how you can kind of dip in and out of it and just read a little bit, and they're shorter pieces. I really like that. I like the structure. I like how you get to explore a subject from a bunch of different perspectives, and it's a really fun way to learn about a topic, I think. So I thought maybe it would be fun to do that for New Jersey. And it has been done before. There's a couple other anthologies about New Jersey, but they were, for various reasons, I thought maybe we could use an update. They were a little older. I wanted something that had more like artwork, and that could be sort of a nice object, a design object as well, with pictures and something people might want to give as a gift rather than just a traditional book with, no artwork in it. And so I wrote a book proposal, which is the first step if you want to do a nonfiction book. And it took me a really long time to feel ready to show it to anybody. I spent about a year playing with it. And I finally sent it to Rutgers University Press one day. I decided I would just go ahead and send it off and see what happened. And what happened is they liked it and they wanted to publish it. So that was in early 2020. I started talking to them, and I signed the contract with them in July of 2020. And then I had about 9 months to put the manuscript together. And I had that due May of 2021. And now it just came out on Friday officially. So it's a long process, but it was very worth it and very fun and exciting. And I'm really happy that it's finally at the point that other people are going to look at it, and it's not just a bunch of spreadsheets on my computer.
That's great. Yeah, and I really do think what makes this book different, because we do have a number of New Jersey travel books and guides and anthologies, is the photos. And I particularly was taken in with a series of photos there by one photographer who documents couches left at curbs across New Jersey. Yes. And we just got rid of a couch, and I'm like, oh, I should have taken a picture and sent it to her if I'd known she was doing this. It's really quite unique to do something like that. And then the addition of having some, comics, like that graphic element to it, makes it really unique. And I agree. So thank you for taking that on, and also giving us the timeline. A lot of times people are asked, how long does it take for a book to get published, and it's a while from start to finish. So, Lorraine, I have to know, do you have plans to do more Jersey-centric crossword puzzles? Like, I could see a whole book of Jersey crossword puzzles, or is that just too limited and you just want to, you know?
Prior to your question, I never really thought about it. I could, that's an interesting idea. And, you know, like if it were vocab puzzles, that's one, I guess you could do centric, like crossword puzzles, like a American crossword puzzle, which is what you see like in the New York Times. If somebody wants to publish something like that, please talk to me. I'd be happy.
Well, I definitely think we need a Princeton crossword puzzle.
Yes, I agree.
Yes, we need a Princeton crossword, just on Princeton.
On Princeton, okay.
We could probably just do one on Nobel laureates that lived in Princeton, or live in Princeton.
Okay, I do know that there's another woman, well, like I said, mentioned this, I have this collaborator, but there's another Princeton graduate who has published a couple of times in the New York Times. That's the Holy Grail. I have not accomplished that yet. And her puzzle was about the university, and it was in the Paw a couple of years ago for a big, yeah.
I know that author, because she was supposed to talk here, and then the pandemic happened.
Stella, somebody?
I know maybe somebody, there's another Princeton person in that does crosswords. So we have a lot of people in here in Princeton that do crosswords. That's great. Okay, so Brittany.
Oh, Amy, was it Amy? Amy Goldstein?
I'm gonna have to go look it up.
Okay.
Too many authors that I have contact with. So Brittany, in your bio, you're a self-described foodie and you connect food and home. So in your estimation, what is the best place to eat in New Jersey? And that can be a restaurant or a town.
This is such a territorial question. I know, the pressure indeed. Well, I can say for certain when I come back, whether living in England, North Carolina, Chicago, whatever, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all 3 meals are always accounted for in advance. I would have to say, I think I'll answer this question by like region. Obviously, I have a deep connection to the Jersey Shore. It's a thorny relationship, but I do love it. And I really think that I'm biased towards like the Wildwood, Cape May area, but I would have to say that might be the best because you have the indulgent, saturated food of the boardwalk, right? The late night bite, but there's really beautiful and incredible, like innovative food in Wildwood, but especially in Cape May, right? So I just think that although it's not, the only downside is there isn't necessarily a diverse array of food, right? A lot of, I don't know, seafood, steaks, right? Luxurious stuff, but I think that might be the way to go. Good pizza, good seafood, good sweets. So that's going to be my answer, that region.
That's a great answer. And I have to say, when I first moved here from Canada, I don't think we have, like, the number of hot dog stands that are in New Jersey, like, that's got to be a thing too. Like, I know we're known as the diner capital, as was mentioned, but hot dog stands are just everywhere, and I've never seen that before. So maybe we need to explore that at some point as well. What's the best hot dog stand? I know there's a person who writes for NewJersey.com who does, Peter Genovese, often goes around and tries to discover these things.
Can I also add, you know, my sister lives in northern Jersey, in Essex, and the bagels up there are fine, but the bagels, I'm sorry, down here in Princeton, they really are not very good. I'm from New York, so this is a problem for me, but yeah, I just have to
Okay, well, I
point
thought,
that out, sorry.
and people from Canada will tell you there's no bagel like the Montreal bagel, and the Montreal bagel is entirely different than a New York bagel.
It's like a pretzel.
Well, it's fatter, it's got
Put
seeds
that
on
in
it,
3 times and
Yeah.
add it, and it's good, but it's very different from
it's
the
very
New York
different. So yeah, bagels are very regional, but I guess a New York bagel yeah. Okay, so Pooja, you work at Princeton University. We have a lot of Princeton connections here on our panel today. Can you tell us about your favorite place here in Princeton for either a quick bite, dinner, or coffee? Where do you like to go?
I have a young daughter. She's 10 years old. So on behalf of her, because we go here all the time, is Ben Spoon. We're here every season. We go in the wintertime for their hot chocolate with homemade marshmallows and whatnot. And obviously in the summertime, they're really inventive flavors. when the cicadas popped up last year, was it? Last year? They made cicada ice cream. I'm allergic to shellfish, so I cannot eat cicada ice cream because they are closely related species. She was very into the cicada chocolate chip ice cream. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, we are big fans of the Bent Spoon here at the library. I actually like their cupcakes as well. I don't know how they make their frosting, but it is something else. And speaking of the Bent Spoon, they're sponsoring our summer reading club for kids this year, and kids who meet their summer reading goal will get an ice cream from the Bent Spoon. And you don't have to have a library card to sign up for that, so your daughter might want to come in and sign up. Yes, sign your daughter up today.
I will, and those ice creams, they're delicious, but they're like $6 a pop, so free ice cream.
Yeah, free ice cream from the Bent Spoon for summer reading, and the Bent Spoon is a big fan of literacy in the library. We love the Bent Spoon.
So I have to do a survey. Thomas Sweets?
Okay, Thomas Sweet and
Thomas Sweets or Ben Spoon?
Hello, Pop.
Yeah, what
Oh,
about
hey.
Halo Club? I was just gonna say.
Oh, Halo Pop. We have, you know what, we have no shortage of ice cream in Princeton. There's one thing. There's an ice cream shop on every corner. I love Thomas Sweet as well. Yeah. And then there's Rita's. They're more of a chain, so.
I will next time, I will bring my 10-year-old and we've gone to every single place and she's a connoisseur, so she will, yeah.
Okay. So the next question each of you can answer, and I did give you a warning of this ahead of time so that you would have some time to formulate it. So you have an out-of-state guest coming to New Jersey for just one day. They've never been to New Jersey before. Where do you take them to give them the ultimate Jersey experience? It can be a town, a place, a locale, an attraction. Where's the ultimate Jersey experience?
I think it would be a very busy day and we'd be all over the place. Because I'm from Monmouth County originally, but I live in Essex County now, and I think just every different part of the state has such a different personality, and it would be hard for me to have someone come and just see one part of New Jersey. I'd be very tempted to be like, okay, we're gonna go up here and then we're gonna go down here. I think I would want to take someone to Asbury Park, which I have kind of complicated relationship with. It's changed so much and it's gotten really overdeveloped and crowded, but I think there's a lot there that I'd want someone to see. And I would also want to show them where I live, which is in Nutley, and like Montclair area. I think there's a lot of nice stuff there as well.
Okay, Lorraine,
Can I go last?
you can go last. Brittany?
Oh man, I think it would be a very long day. Like Carrie said, a lot of driving. I think the best kind of hidden part about New Jersey that people don't realize when they're not from this area and haven't been here before is just like the diversity of landscapes. It's so beautiful and you can see it. You can see any given landscape and at any given time. So I think it would be a road trip day. I'm from Kinnelon in Morris County, lots of lakes and mountains and hiking. So I think we'd start up there, get some really beautiful natural views. And then of course, I'm gonna say down to the Jersey Shore because of course. So, and Garden State Parkway, they have to experience it once. So that's mine.
Yeah, the Garden State Parkway is an experience into itself. True story is that I almost didn't move to New Jersey because of Route 1 and the Garden State Parkway. When I interviewed here at the library, I grew up in Canada. I'd never been on a road like that before. And I didn't know if I could drive in New Jersey. I always thought, how am I going to get back and forth to work? And I spent my first year driving all the back roads around and around to get here because I was terrified to go on Route 1. And I think I was here 2 years before I drove myself on the Garden State Parkway. Yeah, growing up, yeah, it's a different kind of driving in New Jersey. And even now, my husband says you can tell I'm a Canadian because I'm far too polite on the road.
I think one of the things that I love about New Jersey, and I think Carrie said this in her introduction, is that you can get any type of food you want from anywhere in the world and you don't have to drive very far. And like as I said, I grew up in Edison, New Jersey, which has changed dramatically since I was a young child. It's largely Asian American now, and it has one of the largest South Asian diasporas outside of, in the United States, right? I mean, the other large ones are, of course, London and Toronto. And to get like really good Indian or Pakistani food is really, really, it's the place to go. I have a friend coming from Michigan actually in 2 weeks, and that's exactly where she wants to go to get food. So I think that's where we'd start our day. And I think it would be a long road trip, but I think to be able to go into sort of these ethnic enclaves from sort of pick a country and you'll find a community here in New Jersey and be able to access that food is really a gift. You don't have to travel far.
So I was going to say Princeton, of course. Because to me, I mean, all these women know New Jersey probably far better than I do, and the sum of New Jersey. And I love the shore, and I love Northern Jersey, and all the pieces in between. But I kind of feel like if you're going to do all of it, then you're going to spend all your day, the entire day on the Garden State or on Route 1, which I know I have spent too many hours commuting to wherever, getting stuck on a highway. But Princeton is probably one of the most beautiful places in all of New Jersey, perhaps all of the country, and maybe even all of the world. And obviously the university is an extraordinary institution. You also have the historic battles that were here and the depth of history that you can find in this little tiny town. I also love the fact that it is so equidistant from New York City and from Philadelphia, that it has flavors of both, as you described as being in Central Jersey, and you also described. So that's what I would choose if I had to choose one.
Yes, I think Princeton would be a good place. Now, I'm surprised that none of you have mentioned the Pinelands. And I know we love the Pinelands. My son spent all of his summers down at Camp Occonequin at the Y of the Pines, just a beautiful place, and we've fallen in love with the pines. Shout out to Camp Occonequin, great place for camp, and Camp Matalianaquay for the girls is the other half of that. And I can say that 5 times fast, Matalianaquay. So Pinelands, what are our thoughts on the Pinelands?
I love the Pine Barrens. I think it was last summer, I went down to Batstow Historic Village, which is part of Wharton State Forest. And they have a lot of really nice, I've been there a couple times, but I went last year to do a specific hiking trail. I think it was called the Batstow Lake Trail, if I'm getting that right. It was about a 4-mile loop. And part of it was along the lake, but then most of it was just in the forests. And I was really blown away by how quiet it was. You can't hear anything. And then we saw a lot of really weird nature that we don't have in other parts of New Jersey, like the pitch pines that grow out of the sand. And there were all these little frogs that I've never seen such tiny frogs before, and weird bugs and stuff. So yeah, I love the Pine Barrens.
And then there's also the Delaware Water Gap if you want to go someplace totally different. I mean, someone said we really do have it all here in this state. Okay, so I want to have time for the audience questions. So before we do that, we're going a little bit over time maybe, but that's okay. So this is what's called our lightning round. And we're going to go just down the row for each question, and you're going to give your answer. It's going to be either a one-word answer or it's going to be an either or. Okay, so pork roll or Taylor ham, the big Jersey debate. Pork roll or Taylor ham?
I can't answer that in one question. I don't eat it a lot, but if I am, I'll just say whatever it says on the menu.
Okay, pork roll or Taylor ham?
Yeah, not either of those either, but I'd say pork roll.
Absolutely Taylor ham.
I don't eat pork.
Okay. The Jersey Shore or the Jersey Highlands?
Sure.
Highlands.
Obviously Jersey Shore.
Jersey Shore.
Okay. If you're going to visit Philadelphia or New York?
Philadelphia.
New York.
New York.
New York.
Oh,
I went
okay.
to college in Philadelphia, so I have to say Philly.
Wawa or Quick Check?
Quick Check.
Wawa.
Oh, I think Wawa.
Yeah, I think Wawa.
Okay. Now this is going to have to be, we have different answers here. Best performer from New Jersey?
Jack Antonoff.
Springsteen.
I think Billy Joel has to be my
Oh, okay.
Long Island.
from Long Island? He's from Long Island.
He gives Jersey boy energy. I think, okay, then I have to say Springsteen, but also partially because of the audience at Springsteen. They are the show as well.
I mean, I guess I have to say Bon Jovi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he lives here. He lives in Pennington, right? Yeah.
Okay, do you believe in the New Jersey Devil? Yes or no?
I would like to, but no.
No.
No, but I do think Clinton Road is definitely haunted.
Carrie's answer, no, but I would like to.
My son says he exists. He has spent summers in the Pinelands. Everybody at Camp Occonegan has seen the Jersey Devil. If you are a 10-year-old boy who spends all summer in the woods with other 10-year-old boys, you believe. But yeah, I'm not sure either. Your favorite place in New Jersey that most people do not know about?
It's really hard. That people don't know about.
Okay, we'll come back to that one. You guys
Yeah,
think
I
about
gotta
that one. Okay, let's just do best shore town.
Bradley Beach.
Cape May.
Wildwood.
Asbury Park.
Okay. And this is actually, he's come up several times. I think I might know the answer, but maybe not. Springsteen or Sinatra?
Springsteen.
Oh, I said Springsteen. I said Springsteen earlier.
You don't have.
I'm more of a Sinatra girl, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
My boyfriend's gonna be mad because he's such a Springsteen fan, but definitely Sinatra.
Springsteen.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I was a Springsteen fan up in Canada before he was well known, and made a road trip here in the 80s and 90s just to go to Asbury Park on one spring break before. And I was so disappointed. We pulled up late at night, and again, Canadian girl here, and I just was like, Asbury Park, I listened endlessly to the album Greetings from Asbury Park, and I had this perfect picture in my mind, and the first thing I saw was some hookers at a hotel, and it was all run down, and I was like 19, and I was like, no, this is not it. So anyhow, Asbury Park, yes, is a complex history. Okay, so let's go back. So for the final question, you can either do your favorite New Jersey city or a place people don't know about.
So I have an answer, but it's not one specific place. It's kind of a category of place. I think people aren't always aware of all the small local history sites that they have in their area. Like almost every town has some kind of historic society or a little house that's only open once a month or something like that. And I'm really passionate about those kinds of places and the kinds of history that they have in them, and I hope that people seek them out and visit them and pay attention to them.
Good answer.
I think it's Manalapan Dog Beach. I think that's where it is. It's a dog beach down by the shore where you can bring your dog and let them go off leash and run in it's kind of like a little bay area. And
Is it fenced off?
No, but it's kind of like in a cove, so there's rocks and a jetty, so
Wow.
it's
Sounds really
yeah. I go there every year with my sister, and we bring our dogs and let them go swimming. It's fun.
I think this is a spot that locals know about, but the Stairway to Heaven hiking trail.
Ooh.
Yeah, so the Stairway to Heaven hiking trail, do you know what town it's in?
Mm-mm.
Vernon, yeah, that's a really special place that kind of similar to what Carrie was saying. People, I just don't think of some of the gems that New Jersey has to offer with its landscapes, and I think that's a really generous one.
My favorite place to go when I just want to go for a walk is here in Hillsborough is Duke Farms. And we love Duke Farms for a number of reasons. There's a bike rental program and stuff like that, and there's a beautiful orchid range. Duke Farms was founded by Doris Duke, who was the heir to the Duke fortune, the tobacco fortune, unfortunately. Came to New Jersey to purchase land in Somerset County and sort of the Gilded Age era. And in the whenever she passed away, she passed the land onto the state. And now is sort of Center for Environmental Stewardship, and they do wonderful programming for families. And it's just a wonderful place to walk, and you can see the sort of the mansion and the carriage house and, sort of all this Gilded Age architecture. But it's just a wonderful place to go. And my family, my parents have been community gardeners there, and they have the largest allotment plot garden in the state. It's the largest one, and so they have 1,000 square feet where my mom, who's a very avid gardener, so we spend almost every summer day there. We weed, she harvests. Yeah.
Great. I didn't know they had community gardens there. See, we're learning something new. Okay, so we have time for 1 or 2 questions from the audience. Is there anybody with a question for our panel? I'll bring you the microphone. Oh, okay, over here.
I'd like to know what each of the panelists are now working on. What's next?
So what's next for everybody on the panel?
I am, as my bio says, I'm a journalist, so I work on a lot of stuff all at the same time. So I'm working on my beats are books, food, and parenting, or any intersections thereof. So I'm writing a bunch of pieces that are forthcoming in the next couple of months. I'm also a picture book writer, so I'm working on 2 picture book manuscripts right now, and I'm headed in the beginning of June to the Highlights Foundation, which is in the Poconos, which is the foundation that runs Highlights magazine that invites writers who write for children to retreat there. So I'm going to have some intense time to work on my creative work.
Yeah, I'm actually still in the early stages of what definitely feels like a very long-term project, but I'm working towards a book right now that's exploring, it's a novel, so it's fiction-based, but I'm hoping to really explore from the perspective of a woman from New Jersey, and one who is on a show very similar to something like Real Housewives of New Jersey. And to kind of explore it in a memoiristic way, though it will be fictional, and to really just treat the experience of women that we caricaturize. Obviously, that's a subject I'm really interested in, but to really treat them seriously and to really explore the multitudes there and just what a robust kind of cultural tapestry we have around the Jersey girl. So yeah, that's what I'm working towards.
So I am doing a number of things. I'm going to be starting a new job in about 2 weeks. But the other thing that might interest everybody here is I am chairing, does anyone know Princeton Summer Theater on campus?
Yeah.
Right, and Theater on Team. So it's Theater on Team during the school year, and then during the summer it becomes Princeton Summer Theater. This is kind of a little bit of a smidge, but in November of 2020, Theater on Team actually had its 100th anniversary. Of course, we couldn't do the big celebration that we were planning to do because of the pandemic. So it has been moved to November of 2022. It will also mark the 50th anniversary of Princeton Summer Theater. So it's going to be a 3-day weekend. It's the first weekend in November. There is a thing called a community pass, which will give you a ticket to the undergraduate performance of 12th Night. There's going to be a 7-part film retrospective of 100 years of 100 years of On Team and 50 years of Princeton Summer Theater, featuring Bebe Neuwirth and John Lithgow was in several productions at PST. Who else? Jimmy Stewart, obviously. Albert Einstein attended a production of The Tempest. So it has, the 7 parts have historic references. There's also going to be a panel on the future of live theater and celebrating change, featuring some incredible speakers, including Kelvin Dinkins, who now runs the ART Theater at Harvard, and will be bringing the all-female cast of 1776 to Broadway. It's also going to feature, these are still to be confirmed, but you're the first to hear it, Linnea Blaine Cruz, who just directed and was nominated for a Tony Award for her direction of Skin of Our Teeth at Lincoln Center. who are the other panelists? Oh, it's an incredible array of panelists on Friday night. That's going to be at Richardson. On Saturday, there are going to be 2 more panels about using your creativity in the rest of your life if you decide not to go into the theater. And then a panel of all-star alumni from Theater On Team and PST. And so there's a community pass. If anybody's interested in buying a community pass or buying a full pass, you can go to www.hmt100, which stands for Hamilton Murray Theater 100.org. So www.hmt100.org to register. And I am chairing that weekend as we pull all the pieces for that together. So that's a very exciting event that we're finally getting to do. Thank you.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I hope you'll all be there. I think it's going to be very exciting.
I'm not working on anything specific. I don't know if I have another book idea just yet, but some essays that I've been playing with and just kind of more events for the book and see how that goes.
And working as a librarian, which is the best job in the world.
Yes.
Yes. So yes, a librarian's day is never dull. I actually think we're kind of going a little bit over time, so we are gonna wrap it up. And if you have questions for the panelists, you can come up. We'll stay here in the room, chit chat. It is a book brunch for those that are here. I want to thank Jam and Crepes and Small World Coffee, 2 other great local community restaurants here in town, for providing us the savory sweets and the coffee. So make sure you enjoy those. I want to thank all of our speakers today for joining us. It was really a pleasure to have you. Please be sure to check the library's website for future events. We are bringing back, for the first time since the pandemic began, our annual summer reading soiree. This year, which is an event we host at different locations around town with a guest author. This year, our guest author is Jennifer Weiner, Princeton University graduate. And we'll be out at the Historical Society of Princeton Barn. We'll have sorbet from the Bent Spoon and other sweets and treats and enjoyments. It's usually a very lovely night. We make some sparkling punch. We enjoy sorbet. We have an author talk. It is a ticketed event, and you get the ticket includes your copy of the book to be signed. And so it's very low cost, $30 is basically the cost of the book, and the library provides everything else. So if you want to do that, that's July 26th. Go to our website. We would love to have you at our summer reading soiree. And then also we're gearing up. Talking in New Jersey, it's the Summer Night Series the library does at the Princeton Shopping Center, which is a little gem here in town. They have this great interior courtyard at the shopping center, and the library helps line up a series of concerts. Kick off on July 7th with Grace Little Band. Grace Little is very local here to Princeton, Trenton area. She's a powerhouse singer, and her band, they're a favorite. But we have all Jersey bands featured at this series that are really great, diverse bands. So I have those posters over there. So speaking of New Jersey, I had to say we promote all things local, all things Jersey here at the library, including today's wonderful panel. So let's give another round of applause for Carrie and the panelists. And again, the posters here at the back, if you want to buy a copy, and they will stay around to sign, answer your questions, enjoy another cup of coffee, and thank you for coming to Book Brunch. Thank you.